Hey everyone, today I'm going to give you a very short video review of the basic functions of a very basic bread maker machine which I've basically bought online from Tesco. So this is Tesco's newer OEM model, which is the BM1333 bread maker machine, and I got this at a discount online for about 175 ringgits. That's about 40 to 45 US dollars. Okay, so it came in a box. I have unboxed it. I'm going to just quickly show you what came with the box. So there is the manual, and don't lose the manual because you'll need to refer to this about the recipes and how much amount of ingredients you need to put to make certain types of bread, and also how to use the machine. Now, in terms of the machine itself, it's very nice looking. So I'm just going to turn it around. It's square or rectangular. There are some air vents in front and also on top. Okay. Now, the lid basically doesn't have a spring mechanism. You just open it with your hand, and you can open it during the kneading of the bread. Of course, during the baking, you should not open it because if not, the heat will escape. Now, in the bread maker machine, they've basically given a measuring spoon. So you have a tablespoon set measurement and a teaspoon measurement. They've got a measuring cup for you to measure the fluid and the liquid, and a hook to remove the paddle, the kneading paddle. Okay, I'm just going to leave this aside. Now, in the basket, so I'm just going to tilt the camera forward so that you can see it. Okay, to remove the bread basket, basically you turn it anti-clockwise and then you can lift it up. Okay, to install it, you basically put it in an angle. It slides in very easily. Okay, and then you turn it clockwise. That's to lock it. That's all. Now, of course, in the bread basket, I'm going to just tilt it back again. You can see, like, I've got the paddle already installed in here. So this is the kneading paddle. You shouldn't lose this because if you do, then you can't actually make the bread anymore. So I'm just going to leave it inside. Okay, it basically just slides in. Alright, so I'm going to put back the bread basket. Now, the operation of the bread machine is fairly straightforward. Let me just zoom in. I'm just trying to see if I can actually zoom in. There we go. So there are three setting buttons: menu, color, and loaf. Now, basically when you turn it on, after you've put in the ingredients, you select what kind of bread you want or what kind of function through the menu button. So there is a basic bread, French bread, whole wheat, quick bread, sweet bread, gluten-free bread, ultra-fast, dough, jam, cake, sandwich, and bake. Basically, when you make basic breads, you either select basic or French. Now, I've tested both of them. The basic is the faster one, about 3 hours. Just makes normal white bread. You can add ingredients during the bake process as well, like raisins or nuts. The French bread setting takes almost 4 hours. Basically, it kneads the bread extra to make it more elastic, and it lets it ferment and rise more. So it becomes like a very chewy slash airy dough bread. The color let you set the setting for how crispy or how dark you want the exterior to be. So it could be light, medium, and dark. By default, it's medium. And loaf lets you set either the 1.5 or the 2 pound option. The basic quick bread 1.5 would be the fastest, right? And then you just test up. Okay, the other extra function is that you can actually set an extra timer. Like say if you want to put in your ingredients at night and you want to wake up in the morning to have a ready freshly made bread, yes, you can set a timer, and later I'll show you what to set in here. So what we'll do is just quickly show you how to make a basic white bread. Now in the recipe itself, it's it's called for using bread flour, which is high protein flour. But I found like bread flour is a bit more expensive, so I've tested with just a very simple flour, and I found like this particular brand actually works fairly well. Not advertising for them, but this actually works very well for me. This is from Malaysia Flour Mills. This is just all-purpose flour, chopped roast. This pack is 850 grams, and it cost me about like 1 ringgit 70 cents. Now the basic recipe for a 1.5 pound loaf needs 422 grams, 420 grams of flour. So this pack exactly gives you 2 servings of bread, so you can actually make 2 breads out of this, which is quite convenient. So you can measure just half of it, and the next time you can just put in the balance half for the second loaf, for the 1.5 loaf. And this flour actually has got a bit higher gluten than the other cheaper ones flour. So this thing works for me. So just saying. Alright, now to make the basic bread, basically we only need a few ingredients. We need basically water, a bit of salt, sugar, oil, the flour or wheat flour, and yeast. So let's go ahead and basically start making bread. Now I've done this 2 or 3 times, so I roughly know the measurement. Now for the basic white bread, of course the loaf tin is already inside the bread maker. Alright, so I don't have to and when you put this thing in, you have to make sure that your paddle is already in. If not, then later you want to add in the paddle with all the flour. It's a bit difficult. So I'm going to add in, refer to the manual. First we add in the water. I'm going to see if I can tilt in so that we can actually see this better. I'll come back. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, my basket is empty at the moment. I'm going to put and add in, this is 280 milliliters of just normal water. You can use tap water if you like. Okay. Just don't use cold water. Okay, just normal temperature water is fine. So 280 ml. This is for the basic loaf. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a bit of salt. Okay, so here I'm going to add in about half a teaspoon of salt, and you can adjust it to your taste. Okay, so I'm going to add in half a teaspoon. Not too much salt, if not you'll like stop the yeast from working. So that's half a teaspoon. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is to add in the sugar. So for the sugar, I'm going to add in 1.5 tablespoons. So this is the tablespoon measurement. If you want it sweeter, you can add more sugar. So 1.5 tablespoons. So that's 1. Okay, and then half. Okay, that's it. And we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons or 1.5 tablespoon of just vegetable oil. You can use any oil that you want. Just be mindful that it will affect the flavor if you use strong flavor oils like olive oil. So basically, let me just get rid of this sugar. Okay, so we've put in the water, salt, sugar, and oil. Now what we're going to do is to just add in the flour. So I've already measured up a, this is basically 400, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. This is 420 grams of flour. It's not, okay, so 420 grams of flour. This is half of this pack, which is very convenient. So I can make 2 small loaves with just 1 pack of flour. So I'm just going to add in the flour right now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. Now, if you're making the bread straight away, you don't really have to care about like where you put the yeast, as long as it's not together with the salt. If you're going to leave this a bit longer, you want to make a small well in the middle, and make sure your yeast don't touch the water if you're leaving it. If not, if you're making it straight away, then it doesn't matter. So basically 1 teaspoon of yeast. Just follow the recipe. Okay, so that's about 1 teaspoon of yeast. Okay, okay, and that's basically it. Now, what I want to do is I am going to just pause here a little while so I can reset my camera angle and come back. Okay, so I've got the ingredients inside. Let me just quickly just show you the ingredients. If I can just tilt my camera forward. Okay, you can see like the flour and the yeast. It's all inside. In fact, let me just turn on the lights a little bit so you can see. Okay, so that's water underneath, the flour on top, and the yeast is just on top of the flour. So I'm just going to close this. Okay, and let's have a look at the setting. So I'm going to turn on the power right now. So it beeps as it turns on. Okay, let me just move this here a little bit so you can see it clearer. So you can actually see, let me just turn off this light so that it goes back to a normal view. Alright, so that's adjusted. Now, to cycle through the menu, in fact, if you want a very basic thing, basically you can just set the loaf and then you can just press start. So if you want a very basic loaf, this is a small loaf, you can just set it to 1.5 and just press start. Alright, so but I'm just going to go through the setting. Now, you can see this is 1 and this timer is set at 3 hours, which means in 3 hours this bread will be ready. So to set the different breads, you can just press menu. So currently is 1, that's for basic. 2 is for French. 3 is for whole wheat. It will take longer, 3 hours 40 minutes. Quick setting, which the loaf will not be so airy, is 2 hours. Sweet bread will take almost 3 hours. Okay, so I'm going to set back to 1 then. So that's 1, it takes 3 hours. So this is basic bread. Okay, color. Currently default setting is at medium. If you want it darker, you can just press dark. If you want it lighter, you can just press light. So let's set at medium. Now the loaf is important to set because it depends on how much of flour you've added in. So currently default is set at 2. So I'm hit the loaf at 1.5. So this basic medium 1.5 pound loaf for basic bread will take 2 hours and 53 minutes. If you want to set it at night to wake up in the morning, you can just quickly add timer. Okay, so this is 3 hours. Every up button will add 10 minutes to it. So let's say if let's say now is 11 o'clock at night and you want to wake up at 7 a.m. with fresh bread, so you just set it at 8 hours. Okay, so at 8 hours the bread will be ready, and when you are doing a timer, make sure your yeast is not touching the water at all. Okay, that's very important. So I'm going to go and set back to oops, okay, 2 hours 53. So this is immediate. Alright, so basically it's all set. All you need to do is to press start. So I'm going to just lift up the lid. Okay, turn on the lights right now. I'm just quickly going to show you when I press start. Okay, so I'm going to only press the start button. So I'm just going to tilt it forward so you can actually see the... Okay, so that's quite good an angle then. In fact, let me just tilt this a little bit lower so you can actually see it. Okay, so I'm going to press start right now. So you can see like it's starting to knead. And just to remind that we're actually making a basic white bread, medium color, basically crust, 1.5 pound, which is a smaller loaf. So you can see like the paddle is actually mixing up the fluid and the flour. Now during this cycle of almost 3 hours, okay, it will go through the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes of kneading. This is what is happening right now. You'll rest for about maybe half an hour. Then it's going to go through a second longer kneading cycle to develop the gluten and everything. And during the second kneading cycle, somewhere in between, it will beep 10 times. Alright, and during that time, you can actually start to add your other ingredients like your raisins or nuts, or if you're making a brioche, you can add more butter. you go on kneading, and then it will then pause for like half an hour. Then it will punch down the loaf, and then it will let it rise, and the last 1 hour of the duration you'll start baking. So it takes about an hour to bake the loaf. Now I have basically tried to just put everything inside like this and not touching it at all. It comes out quite alright. Of course, if you want to, you can use a silicone spatula. Remember that this is actually non-stick, so you don't want to use a metal utensil. You can just scrape down the side to release some of the flour from the side. Okay, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. It doesn't matter. Alright, so this will go on kneading for a bit of time. I'll come back once it's a bit more complete. This is the initial kneading. This would go on for about maybe 5-ish minutes to mix up the ingredients. Okay, again, if you want to scrape down the sides, you can. Just be careful not to touch the moving parts. If you like, you can press the start stop button to pause it, and then you can resume it afterwards. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just to show you that you can scrape down the sides. You want to press the start stop button just one time, so that will pause it. Okay, so you can use a silicone spatula, or in this case I'm just using my finger. I'm going to scrape down the sides. Okay, and this side also. Just remember to pause it if you're scraping down, or just be careful not to touch the moving parts. Or if you don't want to scrape it, it's also fine. It's not a problem at all. Okay, so that's quite good now. It's fully scraped. Okay, so I'm just going to press start again. So I'm going to just press the start stop to resume just one time. Okay, so it's just going to go on kneading like this. Okay, I'm just going to pause this again. I'm going to scrape down this little portion down here. Again, you don't have to do this. Okay, I'm just going to leave this, and I'm going to press start stop again, just to resume. There we go. So you can see, like after it's scraped down, the dough actually releases a lot better. Actually, in fact, it's probably because of this particular flour that I'm using that has got a bit higher gluten. That's why it's sticking together very well. And this flour is very cheap as well. That one pack of 50 grams, which I can use for 2 breads, only costed me about 1 ringgit 70 cents. So this will go on kneading, and I will pause here and I'll come back and show you during other different processes. So the dough has been being kneaded for the last 5 minutes, the initial kneading. So you can actually see, like the gluten is actually forming, and the dough has come together in a round ball. Basically, if your flour doesn't come together like this and it's all over the place, maybe because the gluten is too low, then you might need to change the type of flour. I'm just using very basic wheat flour, so this flour actually works very well for me. So you can see, like dough is being kneaded very well. It's forming very well, and this initial kneading process probably will be like the first 10 minutes, and then you'll rest for half an hour. Then you'll start back the second kneading process after the ingredients has come together. So I'm gonna then pause here and then come back when the second kneading process starts. So at 2 minutes 42, that's when the kneading has stopped. So this is the first kneading. So it's kneaded it for 10 minutes. You can see, like the dough has formed a tight ball. you can just leave this because you will need to knead a second time. You don't have to move this around. In fact, you can just put everything and just ignore it and come back after the last 10 beeping sounds. So now it will rest for probably about half an hour, and then it will start the second kneading process. I'll come back during then. So at 2 minutes 22, it starts the second kneading process. So I'm just going to turn on the lights. Bear with me with my camera. Okay, I'm just going to open the lid. Okay, so this is the second kneading process. My camera is focusing well. Probably not enough of contrast. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Apologies for my camera. There we go. Okay, so this is the second kneading process. It's been about half an hour since we've started the machine. This kneading process will probably go through about 15 to 20 minutes. You can see like our dough is coming very well together. I'm just going to quickly touch it. You can see like this is in fact, let me just pause this. Okay, let me just pause this for a while. You can see like this dough is still a bit wet, but it's springy. Okay, so it needs more kneading. I'm going to like resume. Sorry, my camera is a bit hunting in the focus department. So during the second kneading process, somewhere in the middle, the machine will beep 10 times. That is basically the signal for you to add any additional ingredients you want, like fruits and nuts and butter and so on. It's just fine, you can just leave it. In fact, you can just put in the bread, the flour, turn on and leave it until 3 hours and the bread will be ready. I'm just doing all this just to show you. Okay, so the dough is being kneaded. I'll come back once the second beeping starts. Right now I'm just going to close the lid so it doesn't get dried out. Okay, I'll come back then. So it's been kneading for almost an extra 10 minutes in the second knead. So the timer right now is at 212. So that means 212 until the bread is ready. So let me just turn on the lights and let's have a look inside. I'm just going to lift up the lid. You can see like the dough is, I'm just going to zoom out so you can focus a bit better. The dough is coming together very well. It looks well made, a bit shiny on top. You can see the gluten has really built up. And you can see the sides are fairly clean. Now, it's alright if there's dough stuck to the sides, if you don't want to clean it or you have just left it alone, because once it bakes, once the dough rises, all the leftover dough will get stuck to the side of the bread anyways. This is an ideal situation where everything is together in one ball. Even if it's not, it's fine, don't worry about it. Because the first 1-2 times that I was baking, I had dough almost all around the sides because I was using probably a lower quality flour. So that could be one of the reasons. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this for a few seconds for you to just have a look at the dough. In fact, let me just move this down. Okay, so you can see the kneading process. If I can just so that's the second beep. Sorry, that's the first intermediate beep. And this basically lets or tells you that, and that happened in, let me just see if I can zoom this correctly, turn off the lights, at 2 hours 10 minutes. So this will basically let you add your other ingredients as you need, like dried fruits or nuts, or more fat, like butter. Let me see if I can. My tripod isn't doing very well here. So this is at a timer of 2 hours 10 minutes. So you can see that the dough is really being worked. So this will probably get kneaded on for another maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, so I'm gonna let it knead, and then I will try to come back to show you in a bit. Alright, so just going to zoom out. Okay, let's close the lid now. And right now it's at 2 hours and 8 minutes. I think it will go on kneading for another 5 minutes or so before it stops. Alright, so I'll come back then. So now at 1 hour 45, there's just a little bit of movement to deflate the dough, or we call it punching down the dough. So it's alright if the dough sticks to the bottom. This is quite normal, we'll just leave it as it is. Okay, so that's just maybe 4 or 5 rounds just to deflate the dough. Okay, and the time now it's about 1 hour 45. Alright, so right now machine will leave it as it is and let it do the final rise for 45 minutes before the baking starts. So we'll come back just before the baking starts. So our timer is at 1 hour 20 minutes, which means that it's been rising for 40 minutes, another 20 minutes to go. So let's have a look. Let me just zoom out, get better focus. Let's open the cover. So you can see like the dough has, let me just see if I can move it up, expanded across the entire bottom. And you can see like there's still a lot of space up. Next 20 minutes this will actually expand a bit more. So that's the current state at 1 hour 20 minutes from the readiness. Alright, so I'll come back once it's just before it starts baking. So the timer now it's about 1 hour 4 minutes. In about 3 minutes the heating and the oven will start. So let's have a quick look at the dough before the baking starts. Just gonna lift up the cover. Okay, I'm gonna move this thing up so you can see clearer. So it's risen a little bit higher, just over double the original size, and it's covered the whole bottom. Now when the heating starts, it will expand further, and it'll probably rise up to just about the dough line over here. Okay, so this is at 1 hour 4 minutes. You can smell the yeast and so on. The surface looks smooth and shiny, though it's kneaded very well. So that's the pre-baking status of the bread. So I'm going to just cover this slowly. Don't want to knock any air out of the dough. So yeah, so now it's at 1 hour 3 minutes. So when the timer reaches 1 hour, the heating element will start up by itself, and I'll come back. So the timer just reached an hour. So right now the heating element will start up. You may be able to hear some clicking sounds as the heating element starts up, or the thermostat gets turned on. Yep, so just very subtle clicking sounds as the element heats up. So there's not much to see. It will basically bake for an hour. At the end of the 1 hour, it will beep 10 times, basically telling the bread is ready. After that, we'll lift it up and cool it on a wire rack. So we'll let this bake for a bit, and then I will be able to show you, hopefully, because there's actually a clear baking window on top. There's no light inside, so you can't see very well. There's basically a heating vent to allow the hot air to, or part of the hot air to come out to relieve the pressure. So we'll have a look at it in a bit. So right now the baking starts. 1 hour to the bread being ready. Right, so the bread has been baking for 10 minutes. There's another 15 minutes left. You can actually see the dough rising even more upwards. You can't see very clearly here, but you can roughly see the dough. So we'll check back shortly. So this is another 15 minutes until readiness. So the final 10 pips has just gone off. So you can see like the timer is now at 0. Basically to stop the timer, this is heating, keeping warm. So you just like just zoom out. Just hold down the power off button. Okay, now the heating is off. Right, so right now what I want to do is to just open up. Let's see if I can turn on the lights. I'm just going to show you. That's our basic loaf. Very nicely colored, very nicely expanded as well. Okay, now I'm gonna remove this and let it cool on a wire rack. Okay, I'll remove this and then I'll show you. Okay, so I've got the basically the the cloth down here. So I'm just gonna twist it anti-clockwise. There we go, and I'm just gonna lift this thing up. Alright, so that's very hot. I'm just gonna leave this here for a little while whilst I there we go. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is to remove the kneading paddle. Okay, we'll just use the metal hook. For a bit. So you can see our loaf. Okay, this is basically our half-pound loaf. Very nicely brown. Okay, so we'll leave this to cool before we cut it. Okay. So basically that's how easy it is to basically make a basic bread with the BM1333 Breadmaker. Okay, we'll cut it shortly. So I'm going to quickly cut up a slice to show you. It's still very hot. I've not left it to cool just as yet. So let me see if I can. To cut the bread, you do need a serrated knife. I'm just going to zoom in. Right, you can see very soft, very airy, with a lot of bubbles, a lot of air pockets. This is the basic bread. If you make this recipe using the French loaf, it'll be even more airy. Okay, so right now let me just have a taste test. Let me just like zoom out if I can. Just a small piece of crust, right? And you hear how crispy the crust is. It's good. Very cool down. Just slice up the bread and then we can store the bread.